Before we officially convene the session, I'd like to report some excellent news, and that is, as of today, on the CDC website, Delaware County has gone to a green, that is a low-risk status. That's great news, and we're also low-risk status at the state of Pennsylvania website. So there is no compulsion for healthy individuals to wear masks, but I would point out that individuals who have the disease should probably be taking this meeting remotely. Individuals who test positive should probably be taking this meeting remotely. And if you have had a recent contact with an infected individual, you should be wearing a mask. And if you have symptoms of any viral disorder, you should probably be staying home. That having been said, I would like to call this meeting to order and start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. So, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So, we are at this meeting tonight because a week ago the Board of Commissioners had an agenda item related to the opening of a new store, Kratom CBD, on Lancaster Avenue, and I don't think I need to review all the details of the kerfuffle that has caused, but there are a number of public health issues and community issues that have been raised by the opening of that store. And in the course of the Board of Commissioners meeting, they decided that they would like the assistance of the Board of Health in putting together information so that the Board of Commissioners can make decisions about what actions they might take. And for those of you who are not familiar, which is most people, let me just introduce what the Board of Health is. The Board of Health in Radnor Township does not exist as a legal authority. Rather, we exist as a volunteer organization that sits in order to provide counsel to the Board of Commissioners, which is the actual executive arm of the Township of Radnor. So we will not be taking any actions tonight. We will be putting together, based on the information that we can glean, a report to help the Board of Commissioners and guide the Board of Commissioners in decisions that they might make regarding the various issues, and I don't want to say issue, but various issues that have been raised by the opening of this store. And I want to thank the members of the Board of Health for their flexibility. Again, these are all people with their own lives and their own careers that are merely a volunteer group. We don't have a budget, we're not paid, and we volunteer our time and our efforts to the Township of Radnor out of our concern and consideration for our fellow citizens and in order to provide service to the Township. And with that, I thought, without putting too great a burden on the time of the meeting, I thought I would ask everybody in the members of the board in 25 words or less to give a thumbnail of who they are and what their consideration is. And I guess we can start, go in the circle here and then go to the people on the Zoom, remembering that this is both a Zoom and a live meeting. So Maggie, if we can start with you and we'll work around the circle, and again, 25 words or less so that we can keep things moving. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Maggie Myers. I'm the Ward 2 Commissioner and the Board of Health Commissioner Liaison. I am a pediatrician by training, and I did newborn intensive care at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia for years. I'm part of the group that has brought the questions to the Board of Health, and will help take the answers back to the Board of Commissioners, where our next meeting is next Monday.
I'm Alex Yiannopoulos. I'm ServSafe certified in food safety, currently working at Paoli Hospital, and I'll extend a welcome to our newest board member, Kiki, who I see has just joined us online.
And my name is David Simmons. I've been the chairman of the Board of Health now for nearly a year and a half. I've been on the board for close to 5 years, I think. I'm not sure. I am a diabetologist. I spent 20 years at the University of Pennsylvania and then 20 years in industry after that, and I've been retired for 5 years. And joining us, Joan Capuzzi. I'll give you a second to get organized and keep going around. Bob?
Hello, my name is Bob DeSigiu. I'm an oral and maxillofacial surgeon. I work at Thomas Jefferson University Hospital. I joined the Board of Health in November, so this is a new experience for me. And I'm just excited to be here and to help in any way that I can with my experiences. I do have a PhD in population health, so I thought that might bring a different aspect to the Board of Health.
I'm Lisa Hamaker-Duman. I'm a practicing endocrinologist with Einstein, and I have 2 teenagers in the school district.
Hi, I'm Joan Capuzzi. I'm a practicing veterinarian and been on the board, I think, 6 or 7 years. Radnor Township resident as well.
Go to the folks on the Zoom. I guess I'll call based on the order that I can detect. So let's start with Julie. Muted, Julie.
You're muted, Julie.
Hi, I'm Julie Kohler. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I have a private practice right in Villanova. I have 2 kids in Radnor School District. They're 9 and 11. And I just joined the board in December, so I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Kathy, your turn.
Hi, my name is Kathy Durr. This is my 2nd term with the Board of Health. I am the vice chair, and I work for Simmons in the healthcare division, and I am currently traveling, so I apologize. I'm in an airport for the background people. Sorry about that.
And I would add that Kathy has provided yeoman service in that she's always the one stuck with doing the minutes of the meetings. And she is the vice chair of the board. Kiki, your turn, and I have not had the pleasure yet of meeting Kiki, but I'll let Kiki introduce herself, please.
Hi, nice to meet everyone. I'm new to the board this year. Well, this is my very first meeting, so it's just been very recent. And I appreciate the opportunity and thank you all for including me. I'm one of the school nurses in the Radnor School District. I am also a co-founder of a foundation that we have. It's a nonprofit that we've started in honor of my son's life, and called Waves to Wellness, that helps people remain in recovery as they're transitioning out of inpatient substance use disorder treatment. So it's nice to meet everyone all virtually.
Thank you and welcome. I don't see any other board members on Zoom as of right now, and I can't keep count, so I'm not sure whether I'm missing anybody. Is there anybody else on the Zoom? We got everyone. Excellent. So the way I would like to conduct this meeting is I would like to start with a couple of presentations from members of the board who've taken the time in the week since last week's Board of Commissioners meeting to do some diving into this and to share their experiences. And then I'd like to move to a general discussion among the members of the Board of Health on the issues that are raised. Then I'd like to take public comment. I'd like to set some rules around public comment. First, the rules of all township meetings regarding public comment is that the people who wish to make comments will make their comments, and they will be unimpeded by questions or interference from the members of the board. But I think we need to set some ground rules there, and those are that, again, this is a technical meeting designed to provide a technical report. Your comments, if they are of a technical nature and contribute to adding to the light of the situation and not the heat or the smoke, smoke may be a bad choice, but we want to shed light on the topic and be able to provide sound scientific basis for guidance to the Board of Commissioners, who will actually be making the decisions. So any lobbying that people might want to do around decision-making, I would strongly support that you bring that lobbying back to the Board of Commissioners and that we restrict...
Diabetes?
Pardon? That we restrict our comments here to factual issues or experiential issues that will contribute to our understanding of what is the problem and what are the possible ways that we can address that. If our public participants want to come on back in, we'll get started again. I hope. Here we go. Excellent. So we are up and running on Zoom again. I have no detailed idea of what actually happened, but the solution to the problem has been to actually create a new meeting. The members of the Board of Health are now on a new Zoom meeting, and Ian has been kind enough to, on the original, on the Township website, at the site of the original meeting is a new link that is a registration link so for those at home who want to join in public participation, they can find the link, register for the meeting, and join as registered public participants. And so with that, let's start the meat of this meeting, and I'd like to start with Dr. Desidue, who is going to provide a summary presentation of what he found in his evaluation of the situation. Bob?
Well, thank you, everybody. Again, my name is Bob Desidue, and I'm an oral and maxillofacial surgeon. I'm here tonight to just present the facts as I know it regarding the situation at hand. So let me see if I can advance this. So we're here to talk about the CBD Kratom store in Wayne that was recently had a grand opening. So I did a little research on where the store actually is in Wayne, and one of the things that we have to keep in mind is when you have a marijuana dispensary, which is very highly regulated, there are specific laws in the state of Pennsylvania what the distance can be from schools. And that includes nursery schools, it includes private schools and public schools. So if you look at where the Kratom store is on Lancaster Avenue, and this is according to Google, I didn't measure this exactly myself, but it's very close to the middle school. It's very close to the Wayne Presbyterian nursery school, and then the St. Catherine's school as well. It's actually 0.3 miles from the Radnor Middle School. It's 0.3 miles from the Wayne Presbyterian Nursery School, and 0.2 miles from St. Catherine's. So if you think of the people that started this Kratom store, they must have strategically placed this just in case at some point in time, this is just my comment, and just in case they ever wanted to sell other products. But in my opinion, it was strategically placed. So the distance, we have 1,000 feet to play with, and to Radnor Middle School was 1,584, to St. Catherine's was 1,056, and to the Wayne Presbyterian Nursery School was 1,584. I don't know of any other schools in the area, but those are the ones that I had that I could find in my research. So what is kratom? And this is just the facts here. Kratom is a tropical tree native to Southeast Asia, and its consumption of its leaves produces both a stimulant effect in low doses and a, excuse me, as well as psychological and physiological dependence, and in higher doses, it can lead to psychotic symptoms. It's mostly abused by oral ingestion in the form of a tablet, capsule, or an extract. And the kratom leaves may also be dried or powdered and ingested as tea, or the kratom leaf can be chewed. So at low doses, kratom produces stimulant effects, with users reporting increased alertness, physical energy, and talkativeness. At higher doses, users can experience sedation effects, and kratom consumption can lead to addiction. And what the literature basically shows is that there's really no regulation of how much product is in the kratom itself. So there's no, we don't really know if one batch has a higher dose and one batch has a lower dose, because there's no control over it. So kratom's effects on the body include nausea, itching, sweating, dry mouth, constipation, increased urination, tachycardia, vomiting, drowsiness, and loss of appetite. Users of kratom have also experienced anorexia, weight loss, insomnia, hepatotoxicity, seizure, and hallucinations. So I looked into the legal status of kratom, and kratom is not a controlled substance under the Controlled Substance Act. However, there may be some state regulations or prohibitions against the possession and use of kratom. The FDA has not approved kratom for any medicinal use. In addition, the DEA has listed kratom as a drug and chemical of concern. It's banned in several states, including Alabama, Arkansas, California, Florida, Illinois, Indiana, New Hampshire, Tennessee, and Wisconsin. Kratom is currently legal in Colorado, but it's banned in Denver. Delta H-THC is a psychotic substance found in the cannabis plant. It's similar in structure and has similar effects to delta-9-THC, which is the constituent responsible for the high that people experience using cannabis. In 2018, the Farm Bill removed hemp from the Controlled Substance Act, which means that cannabis plants and derivatives less than 0.3% delta-9-THC are no longer controlled substances. The bill does not acknowledge delta-8-THC, which is typically manufactured from hemp. Both the CDC and the FDA have recently released advisories about the increasing availability of these products and the potential for adverse events. The Board of Health in Radnor and the Board of Commissioners in Radnor have a responsibility. The regulation and scheduling of drugs is not within the purview of the Radnor Township Board of Health or the Board of Commissioners. But the regulation of commerce does fall within the purview of the Board of Commissioners, such as regulation of sales to children, defining commercial regions where the product can be sold, hours of sale, and buildings and commercial codes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. That's a pretty tight summary of an array of information, and appreciate you taking the time and effort to do that. So next, I'd like to ask Kiki Karianis, who, as part of her training, has done a continuing education course in Kratom, and I asked her to share what it was, what her takeaways of that continuing education course might be.
Hi, thank you for all the information, and given all the wealth of information we've received and have been able to review, the most compelling part of the situation of the potential of the Kratom store in Wayne, for me, is that within that strategically placed proximity of the middle school and St. Catherine's and even Wayne Preschool, there's this rite of passage of walking into Wayne on Friday afternoons for the middle schoolers. And the part of that is quite concerning is the unregulation of the amount of nitrazine in the Kratom. So it's distributed in gummies and drinks, which are obviously very appealing to adolescents and children. And the amount that's, as we know with anything else, everything comes down to what the potency of a serving size is, whether it's caloric or in this case, medicinal. So the amount that's being measured and purported to be safe is 2 to 3 gummies. However, this is a small bag that is typically sold, and there are maybe 9 gummies in a bag. So I don't know that any adolescents or children are going to look at the back of the label and say, oh, we should only take 2 or 3 of these. So it's very easily over-ingested and could absolutely lead to unwanted effects, including respiratory depression, because this particular ingredient does act on opiate receptors. So that's my main takeaway and concern from, aside from everything else that we've heard and we've read about this Kratom and the Delta 8. Again, Delta 8 is not reported because it doesn't have to be. It's not part, what's reported is Delta 9. So the increase in Delta 8 is overlooked and could be easily over-ingested and lead to an overdose, an unwanted and unexpected overdose. That's basically my takeaway.
Anything else you would add at this point?
No, I think that's what I have learned thus far. I think there's someone here joining us that may have had more firsthand experience that I've worked with through our foundation. So I would be very interested in hearing what they have to add.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Alex, you had wanted to make some comments?
So like other board members, I did some research after this issue got brought up to our community. In regards to Delta 8, research seems kind of muddled and inconclusive from what I could find. Part of that is because of the fact that it isn't regulated. But whenever something's not regulated, there's always a danger that chemicals or unsafe chemicals may be used in production, and the final product may not be labeled in terms of what's actually in it, may not be what's labeled as what it says it is. And I would even expand that into a whole wider range of health supplements, but that's a different discussion. In terms of Kratom, there seems to be pretty compelling evidence and research that it is dangerous. I would kind of sum up what I saw about that with the Mayo Clinic's title on their research on it, which was Kratom, Unsafe and Ineffective. I have seen suggestion that it's useful as a treatment for people addicted to more serious opioids. The research that I saw on that topic basically all seemed to point in the direction that it causes more problems than it solves. So I would say that's a substance, that people should stay away from. My concerns in terms of the public health realm of things are twofold. My first concern is that because we live in a society that in some ways has a lot of regulations, there are people who are going to see something unregulated and assume that unregulated means it must be safe. And I'll just say that that's not necessarily the case. And then I think there's another group of people, because this is kind of the way that I felt when I first saw this, is that they're going to see a green leaf and assume that that means natural and assume that natural is safe, and that, you know, doesn't always follow. Not everything that's natural is safe, and not everything with a green leaf is natural and safe. And that particularly concerns me because I think anybody who kind of follows that train of thought is maybe going to kind of look at the pushback on this and say, and kind of think they already know what the story is. Oh, people are objecting to another thing with a green leaf. It's, you know, they just don't get it. Because that was kind of my reaction when I first saw this too, is that it just seemed like, oh, people are probably making too big of a deal out of this. But as I did more research, it seems like this really is something pretty serious. And so I just want to caution people who, again, see the green leaf and think that, you know, the reaction to this is overblown. Do the research, because, again, what the research that I've seen shows is that kratom is dangerous. So I'll just reiterate, don't assume that an unregulated substance is safe. Don't assume that a picture of a green leaf means natural. Don't assume that natural is safe. Don't assume that just because there isn't evidence of something being dangerous, understand that if it's unregulated, then the evidence may not be there because it's unregulated, so you may not be getting what you're thinking you're getting. And that the research seems to say that this is a dangerous substance. So that's kind of what I have to offer.
Thanks an awful lot, Alex. Lisa, you'd like to speak? Please. Take your time.
You know, when I drove past the store for the first time and saw the sign, it does say, you know, CBD Kratom Cannabis Dispensary, which gives the impression that it is a medical marijuana dispensary and is regulated by the state. It is not. You know, it sells CBD, which is legal and appears, you know, to not have an addictive profile and problem, but it also sells, you know, the kratom and the delta-8 THC. So this is not a medical marijuana dispensary, despite it saying cannabis dispensary on the sign. And I think everybody who's seen the sign, it's very like cartoony. So I think it looks very like appealing, especially for our younger people, which is a concern. According to their website, you have to be 18 to purchase, but I actually don't know what their policy is regarding going in and browsing, and over 21 if it's an inhaled substance. But I'm not sure, you know, if the kids can just go in and take a look around or not.
Anybody else? Please, Joan.
Yeah, well, I have a million questions. And first of all, THC is Schedule 1. But I'm wondering what, I didn't know there were different types of THC. My naivety, but I don't know what delta-8 is, what delta-9 is. I don't know what the effects of them or the safety of the different deltas or whatever are. Marijuana is illegal for recreational use in Pennsylvania. So I'm confused as to how it can legally be sold outside of being an approved medical dispensary if this is not an approved medical dispensary. How is it legal? That doesn't make sense to me. I have, you know, a couple phone calls into some lawyers today that I haven't received calls back yet because I'm trying to understand what the regulations are with regard to this. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. You need a dispensary permit. How do they not have one if they're not a medical dispensary, or are they a medical dispensary? who knows?
So I think we can actually take
Okay.
that question on before you go to the others. I think there's an issue of terminology here. Cannabinoids in general are regulated at the federal, state, and in many counties, local levels. And because there are a variety of cannabinoids, including hemp, which has industrial uses, as Bob pointed out, a law was passed in 2018 that separated out those cannabinoids that are known to have psychoactive, that is getting high potential, from those that have purportedly only industrial. And the definition used to separate those two was the content of the delta-9 cannabinoid, the delta-9 THC. There are actually a wide array of cannabinoids. The three that are of most concern to us right now are delta-7, delta-8, and delta-9. And if you had less than 0.3% delta-9, you were considered to be a farm product, a hemp product, and not a marijuana getting high product. And the regulation of cannabinoids for either medical or recreational use that are not farm cannabinoids is based on that definition. But people found out that you could take the delta-7 rich hemp products and modify them chemically and get a new product, delta-8. It's a bit of a designer drug, and that the delta-8 more closely resembles, the ingestion of delta-8 more closely resembles what happens when you ingest delta-9 than when you ingest delta-7. And so what you have is an unregulated product that is a bit of a masquerade. I'd kind of prefer, because there is currently state-level regulation in the state of Pennsylvania, and in some of the counties, county-based regulation in counties in Pennsylvania, and we have a new Department of Health forming up and coming online in April, on April 4th, newly approved. I'd actually like to devote the majority of our attention in this meeting to a couple of the other problems. If I divide the overall array of problems, you have the problem of the store, you have the problem of Kratom, which falls under a greater category of substance abuse and addiction, and then you have the problem of the delta-8 THC. I really believe that in terms of what we can do in the township, my high preference would be to punt delta-8 and to actively work at the level of the county and the state to get regulation of delta-8 consistent with the goals of the state, and to not confuse too many different things here, because I don't think that there's much that we can do with delta-8 at the township level other than what we are doing with regard to the other issues. And I would like to focus on the store and on Kratom if we could, and if somebody had an objection, that would be okay. But I think that that's the best utilization of our resources. And I'll close my comments with that and get back to, because you had a series of other questions, but that's my take on the delta-8 issue. Kratom is, as has already been pointed out, a very different issue. It has abuse potential and addiction potential. There are increasing numbers of reports of ER visits and hospitalizations, and it associates with polydrug abuse. So it's a different species of beast, if I may. And I think and I think you'd have to be living in a cave not to have heard of cannabinoids and not to have heard about marijuana. But I have to say, I don't live in a cave, and I keep my head up, and the Kratom issue was relatively new for me when it arose. So that's kind of how I'd like to do things, and of course, we'll go with the consensus of the board at the end of the day. But let me turn it back to you, Joan.
Okay, so back to Kratom then. I was wondering, number one, if the state of Pennsylvania had looked at that from a regulatory standpoint, if they've addressed Kratom yet, number one. And number two, keeping in mind that just because the state of Pennsylvania legalizes something, it doesn't have to be allowed in a certain county or in a certain township. But the opposite can occur, where if the state of Pennsylvania does not legalize something, Radnor Township can't say, yes, this can be sold here, but we can go one step above. But the other things that are confusing to me, that there are a few different, there's a House bill from this past September that adults can only buy up to 1 ounce of cannabis, and then a Senate bill in Pennsylvania that they can only buy up to 30 grams of cannabis from a licensed dispensary. I'm wondering if there are plans that they will be keeping records of people's names and how much they buy. Is that in their operational plan? Will things be in child-proof containers? I noted that the formulations that things are sold in include lots of things that kids like taffies, cold brew tea, mints, saltwater taffy, gummies, chocolate, lollipops, and fruit strips. And then we get to a whole area of pet treats. Just in veterinary medicine, CBD is not even something that the American Veterinary Medical Association is square on. They don't recommend, they don't make recommendations for using it. There are people that give their animals CBD treats. I can't tell you how many toxicities I've seen of dogs getting into just regular marijuana that some kid drops on the floor in the house. And you know, these pets get sick, they can also die. So this isn't even really necessarily safe for people walking their dogs along that whole strip if these products and containers and all are going to be around, which they will. The other thing I noticed, a lot of these products are also marketed in holiday bath bombs. This is like, these things are very popular with middle school girls, just thinking back to my daughter when she was that age. Lip gloss, body butter, lip scrubs, macaroon-shaped soaps that are in bright colors. The hours of all their locations, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So this is going to bring in a whole, you know, like a whole business at night where things are pretty quiet in that section along Lancaster Avenue that late at night. Do we want people buzzing around buying this stuff at 10 o'clock at night? So these are all just questions in my mind. Also, vape products. Vape products are incredibly popular amongst kids, but the kids are only one portion. I'm not just worried about kids, because if they're really sticking to the rules and not selling to people under 21, then most of their customers are over 21, and we need to worry about these people. We need to worry about people my age. We need to worry about everybody, not just kids. I'm also wondering, in their product list, is everything that they're selling that has THC under 0.3%? Do we need to look at everything that they will be selling? There are no doses, no dosages. I don't even know where to start.
Is that where you're going to finish?
I think so. I think I'm
Thank
just
you.
going to confuse myself further if I keep going on. It's just, there are just too many questions around this and concerns that I have that none of this makes any sense to me.
Thanks for your
Hey,
comments,
David.
John.
David, are we going to get to the public? Because there is somebody on the Q&As asking some pointed questions. I don't know how to get him involved. He's on the Zoom.
So,
Much as
yeah,
for
we
help.
we'll get to public comment as soon as the
Okay.
members of the board, if anybody else, so yourself or Kathy, yourself, Kiki, who else is on the phone? Julie, if any of you have comments now, I'd like to finish up with a round of comments from the board. Then I'll open it to the public, and then we'll reconvene with the board after we've heard from the public. So, Kathy, anything from you?
Nothing that hasn't been said. I'm good.
Julie, anything from you? We may have lost Julie. In fact, it looks like we did. Yeah, we did. So with that, I will open the floor to public comment. And again, I'm going to ask people to restrict themselves, try and keep yourselves to under 3 minutes, and try and keep your comments positive and constructive, and add to the body of information that we have. I think what we should best do, since the people on the phone are disadvantaged, let's start. I see that Sarah Laurel is on the line. Let's start with Sarah, and then we'll go back and forth between people on the Zoom call and people in the audience until everybody's had a chance to make their public comments. So let's get started.
Hi, guys. My name's Sarah Laurel. I'm the executive director of Savage Sisters. My son attends Radnor High School, and our nonprofit serves the Delaware Valley and Philadelphia. For the past 5 years, I've owned and operated sober living homes, and I do a lot of street-based outreach. I do a lot of work in Harrisburg around opioid addiction, specifically recovery and substance use disorder. So I'm going to keep it as brief as possible. I know there's a lot of facts going on here. I am not a doctor. I do not have a degree in this, but I do have years of experience, and I have street level, boots on the ground experience, and one-on-one working with individuals who have had very negative outcomes with Kratom. It is I did not realize that it was coming out in stores this way. In my circle of the people that I serve, it has been hugely detrimental to the recovery world. Individuals, and this, I don't know that it's really been talked about, but it is highly addictive. And the detox, the high, is very similar to that of opiates, ranging from Percocets all the way down to heroin itself. And the detox mirrors that of opiate detox. They do not discuss detox. I've never read any kind of medical documentation regarding it, but I have had specific individuals who have had to detox off of Kratom, and it was vicious. And they were not able to gain access to any kind of substance use treatment facility because it's not a substance that you can really go in and get detox for. So the concern is, my concern is very high, just considering the way that it mirrors the opiate, the high and the detox, and the lack of resources for stepping in and assisting with somebody who could potentially become addicted to it. And then the other thing I wanted to say before I shut up, it comes in many different forms. And I would love to offer, we do a lot of different seminars with teachers and parents and students. It is absolutely in the area. I spoke to my son about it. The kids know that it's coming, and the adults are utilizing it. And I don't know that they're even aware that it is so highly addictive. So talking to individuals, talking to the community, and having an open conversation about what it looks like when somebody is utilizing the substance, what the warning signs are, how to identify it, and then how to respond to it appropriately in a manner that is compassionate, and also directing them into treatment options. I would love to have that conversation with the community, because regardless of whether this store opens or not, Kratom's in your town. So it needs to be something that I think should be addressed, and I'm happy to talk further about that at another time. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thanks an awful lot for joining. What I'd like to do is ask if there's anybody in the audience who wants to make comments. We'll take somebody from the audience, and then there are people online, additional people online who'd like to make comments, and we'll come back to one of the Zoom participants. Please come up to the Again, as taut and brief and factual as we can be, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Press the button on the mic. Am I staring at it? Okay. Okay, good. Hi, my name is Courtney Smith, and I am an RN BSN. I serve currently as the nurse manager at Recovery Centers of America in Devon. I also had done, completed in 2015, a 2-year fellowship under the NPs and the doctors at Bryn Mawr Hospital in pain and palliative care, and worked, I have a 20-year career, so I also worked in critical care as well. I was invited out the other week, last week, to hear about what's going on in this town, and I hope, I'm sorry for the little, and I have great concern with that. So a few things that I think that I can bring to the table, and I'll just give a few points since we're under time constraint. One, I agree that there's an absolute easy misconception. The fact that anybody would put Kratom, CBD, Kratom in the same category is very alarming to me. One is going to act, CBD, first of all, doesn't have the THC component to it, so that's misleading in and of itself. Secondly, even if it was, you're talking about Kratom, which activates the opioid receptors in the brain, and then you're talking about, if you were speaking specifically to Delta 8 per se, you're talking about the cannabinoid receptors, which are very different. Both can, of course, lead to addiction, but one is so much more aggressive. And I will tell you that at the center, I have absolutely detoxed a number of patients from opiates, and I mean, not the opiates, but rather the Kratom, which we treat identical to anybody coming off of heroin or Percocet, because they serve, it, you know, the molecular structures, what we do know is it mimics the opiate. So that's, you're activating that. Secondly, I'm going to detox you with an opiate. I mean, that's what I'm going to give you, is I'm going to give you Subutex, or I'm going to give you methadone to come off of Kratom safely. So I don't care how you slice it, I just activated your opiate receptors. And if you indeed have the negative feedback loop that is associated with addiction and substance use disorders, I have activated that. I've activated physical dependence after 3 days. 3 days. And like you said, CBD, hemp, everybody thinks it's the same thing. They don't have medical backgrounds. Oh, this is good for us. Oh, this is good. And there are benefits to certain aspects of that. I'm not here to contend that. What I'm really concerned about is, one, a synthetic drug that's not tested the same, which is the Delta 8, and I'm more concerned that the Kratom, that's my biggest concern, is even being associated, because it gives the idea that, oh, by the way, it's just okay, it's safe. And I can tell you can get Kratom at any, not any, but you can go to 7-Eleven, or you can go to these gas stations and grab it, and they'll say, oh, you can't get it there, go down there. All you did is an introduction. And I'm really deeply concerned about it. I could go on about it, but I think that those are really valid points that you guys need to know about. And I want to also thank you guys as the Board of Health for serving and making time to discuss this issue. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
And I'd ask Ian, there is a hand raised on the participants online, and I'd ask Ian to activate that line, and we'll take comments from online, from the Zoom, I mean.
Oh, am I there? You are now. Excellent, thank you. First of all, I just would like to thank the Radnor Health Board for allowing time to comment on these things today. I am actually a representative of CBD Kratom, and I just wanted to make a brief statement in regards to this, because I knew everything happening recently. My brief statement on the importance of ensuring that, first of all, that Delta 8 remains legal, as I have no doubt that you all have received a plethora of scientific information from the American Kratom Association. So I'll keep this as brief as I can. First of all, the DEA has made it clear in 2021 that Delta 8 THC is not a controlled substance under the Controlled Substances Act. unlike marijuana and medical marijuana, which are.
Yeah, this is a resident function, right? Correct? It's the resident portal?
So I believe that's correct.
He's not. He's from Kratom.
represents
He's from the
Kratom.
store.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a program, right?
So I do not know, but I believe that you are correct, that you have to be a resident of Radnor Township to provide public comment. So, Mr. Owens, I think that that you will need to carry your information to the Board of Commissioners. This meeting is a Radnor Township residents meeting, so I'll have to ask you to represent your company with the Board of Commissioners, if you would, please.
Absolutely, I completely understand, and I do not wish to violate any of your regional of this decision-making body. So, thank you.
Well, they did already, so they don't have a very good track record.
Is there anybody else in the room that wants to make a comment?
So I would like to ask your permission to tell a brief story, because I think in and of itself it's educational. It's not about Kratom, but it is about drug use and what's going to happen to our children in this township. My 3 girls were raised here. We were here for 20 years. But I would like to give you a little story. I've gone around and I've done some talking with Dr. Wade Barrettini. He was last week on the panel who spoke. And so would that be okay? Would you prefer I save it?
If you can keep your comments within your total comments within a 3 to 5 minute range, that would be fine.
Okay. So my name is Karen Palmer. I was married for 19 years to a young man who was very well known in this area. He did software development, educational, as well as admission software for the Haverford School, for multiple Catholic schools in the area. He was distinguished. He was well known. He was at a Marion Cricket Club member and player #1 on the tennis team. He became a heroin addict. He started out with a little bit of pot because it was okay. That's what he started out with. It was okay in Switzerland, where he was growing up, to have pot, and it was legal. It was fine. They had a park. You might have heard of Needle Park in Switzerland. Sadly, we lived right near there, and we moved back here because years later, he needed some pain relief, and he went out and he got more pain relief. 5 years ago, our beloved Roger overdosed, and he did pass away. The township was absolutely phenomenal. Chris Flanagan went out of his way to do everything he could for us, and here we were. This was a gentleman who had 3 daughters in the township. He was 52 years old. It happened right here in the township, and I know multiple other people from my speaking experiences who, for example, came up to me after talks like this and said, I can't believe this, but this is the first time I'm going to tell someone that my husband didn't die of alcoholism. He died of an opioid overdose. And she sat there at the end of this talk and expressed that. For the first time, she was able to express that. These kids now in this township have gone from pot to all kinds of things. There have been overdoses, and we know that. After Roger died, I want to read you a little excerpt, and then I'll be done. But I can't help, echoing Joan. This is just outrageous for me. It is unbelievable that my kids could have walked 0.3 miles to a store to get what will be, for sure, it will be the beginning for some of those kids, the vulnerable ones, who might not have good support systems in place. It will be the beginning of this. I recently accepted a job in a rehab treatment facility on the Philadelphia Main Line, and during our week of training, I also want to add, and I don't think I did, I am a registered nurse, BSN as well, graduated from Villanova. So I recently accepted a job at Recovery Centers of America. And during our week of training, a senior colleague educated us on the entirely humiliating yet vital mandatory strip and search process of admitting new residents. Our group of 6 new nurses was brought to the admissions entrance to get a feel for where it all begins for someone entering treatment, and just prior to the strip and search. Ironically, or maybe not so much, a young teen girl and her mom walked in from the cold outdoors at that moment. The girl was in her pajamas that afternoon, and at first glance, what I got from her was a sense of defeat, dejection, and sheepishness, flat affect, tears, shoulders that hung low, pale, pale ashen skin. Mom stood sturdy by her scrawny daughter, without a hint of hesitation, even though she couldn't entirely hide the fear and sense of loss that was coming. They spent just a minute at the admissions desk and then turned to embrace each other in a hold that was familiar to me and which poked at my own memories of this sick disease. As a new nurse to this facility, I knew it was my job at that moment to put aside those feelings and remain passively supportive in my body language. Instead, I unexpectedly welled up in tears and had to pivot around from the hallmark hug to meet eyes with my group behind me. Mitch, the orienting employee, was quick to pick up on my shift and asked about the feelings that had surfaced. The word that came to me was courage. I gathered myself and said, courage. I just can't believe the courage. It's just so hard, and we don't have a clue about their journey and the shipwreck before finally getting there. The lies, the deceit, the hope, defeat, the attempts to abstain, and more repeat defeats. But they're here. These people are here, and it's just so courageous. The courage is something I myself, and likely most or all of you, just can't possibly imagine. I hope that imagery of being here at admissions, of that hug, and then the release, and then moving on without her mom towards strip and search in a colder examining room stays with you. It's not defeat, dejection, or sheepishness. It's undeniable courage. And so what I'll say is, some of our kids in our township are going to start with something small, something like Kratom. And they're going to end up 2 miles down the road, just a little bit of a further walk at a recovery center.
Thank you for your heartfelt comments.
Hi, my name's Clark Engel. I'm a Radnor Township resident. I live here in Wayne. I have 4 children. I didn't know that when I came here tonight that the comments were going to be limited to technical areas. So I wasn't really prepared to speak on that, but I'll just give you a few factual things that I am aware of. So I attended a town hall that one of our, somebody put on, that was put on here at the middle school. And somebody passed, one of the physicians went to one of these stores that's in the King of Prussia Mall and purchased a Rice Krispie treat, which this product, this Delta 8 or Kratom is in, and passed it around, and it was shocking how much it had Lucky Charms on it with the leprechaun, and it was shocking how it had no dosage instructions on the packaging whatsoever. So that was very scary. They're obviously marketing to children. Also, the DEA wanted to classify this. You can Google this as a class level 1 drug, but they got a tremendous amount of pressure from the Kratom lobby, so they acquiesced on that. I'd also like to point out that Concord Township here in Pennsylvania passed some zoning laws to prevent a store like this to be sold in the township. So did recently Greenwich, Connecticut. You know, and it's obvious that this industry is full of pariahs that wants to get children and kids, college kids, hooked on this. I mean, it's you know, within 1,000, just over 1,000 feet from 2 schools, there's 5 or 6 colleges that are within a 5-minute drive. You know, you've probably heard the Caleb Sturgis story, who died from Kratom. And, you know, I'd like to ask the members of this township, which kind of lawsuit do you want to fight? Do you want to fight a lawsuit from the Kratom, CBD Kratom store from not allowing them to open? Or do you want another Caleb Sturgis in Radnor Township and have the township defend that lawsuit? So I work in the insurance industry. I'm not a lawyer. But, you know, in the insurance industry, you have to learn a little liability 101. So to prove a negligence case, you have to prove 4 basic elements: damages, duty, breach, and proximate cause. And, you know, when it comes to duty and breach, I believe that the township has a duty to its residents, not the owners of CBD Kratom. And letting this store open up on our main street, so where kids are going to walk by, and what other kinds of nefarious elements are going to come in here, is a breach of that duty to its residents. We don't have a duty to CBD Kratom, in my opinion. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for taking the time tonight and putting together a special meeting on this issue. My name is Mary Beth Doyle. I'm a Radnor resident. I'm a mom of 3 children. I have a master's in public administration with a concentration in health policy from Columbia University. I was a policy analyst, I was a health educator, and I was a lobbyist. I have not done any of those for the past 15 years, but I have done those kinds of things. So when 2 weeks ago I heard that this CBD Kratom store opened, I was like, well, CBD is bad enough. What's going on there? I then started researching Kratom, and I started to go back and talk to some health professionals and medical professionals who I had worked with earlier in my career, and I was horrified at what I found, and I'd like to share some of the stories that they told me. Clark mentioned the Caleb Sturgis story. 25-year-old put some Kratom in his tea because he thought it was like Red Bull. He was tired. He was going to work. He had a stroke driving. He crashed. He passed out. He crashed. He died. I used to work at Children's Hospital Poison Control Center, so I spoke with the medical directors who were there, and they told me a story that an 8-year-old was getting ready to have dinner with her family. She started having convulsions. The family didn't know what was happening. The parents rushed her to the emergency room. The hospital called the Poison Control Center. The Poison Control Center did an evaluation. They linked it to Delta 8. There was Delta 8 in her system, 8-year-old. They tracked down how this substance got in her system. They realized that after school, her babysitter took her to a 7-Eleven, had her pick out something that she wanted. It was something that looked like a Rice Krispie treat, and it had Delta 8 in it. And that is what happened to this. Thankfully, she was okay. The Poison Center intervened. The hospitals around here are wonderful. But when her parents took her into the hospital, they heard the doctor say, brain bleed, stroke. Can you imagine what you would have felt like? You're ready to have a pizza with your daughter, and then half hour later, you're in a hospital hearing brain bleed and stroke. The other thing I spoke to, I have contacts at the Philadelphia DEA, and they explained to me a story. First of all, they said that they're not even that familiar with Kratom or THC. They're busy enough fighting illegal drugs, like officially illegal drugs, that they're overwhelmed, and they get very upset that these drugs slip through. But they said that they are just as dangerous and hazardous. They said that they talked to an individual who actually deals in Kratom. And they said to this individual, here's a gummy bear. if you're talking to someone who you're selling this to, what would you tell them about it? How much would you tell them to take? This individual said an eighth of a gummy bear. An eighth of a gummy bear for an adult would get the adult high. Do you actually think that a kid is going to know to take an eighth of a gummy bear if that isn't bad enough? The consequences of this store opening anywhere are disastrous, but certainly where it wants to open right now. The other thing that I was just told is that in terms of rehab for addiction, there are no facilities like Recovery Centers of America for children for anyone under 18. If we allow this store to open in Radnor Township, it is only a matter of time before a Radnor family experiences some of the tragic events that I've been learning about over the past couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Again, we are short on time. I'd like your comments terse, and I would like them factual, please.
My name is Bappy Fulton. I am a resident of Radnor Township. I have 3 children. I'm a nurse practitioner. I work in adolescent health. I'm just adding something very quickly. I was asked to attend the meeting the other night, and and I attended last week's meeting as well. And I was kind of thrown off because I was finishing up with my last patient, and I was asked to look up some things on Kratom, and within 5 minutes I had already shot off to these guys out of PubMed, all kinds of studies. There's many, many studies on Kratom, not in Google, many studies in PubMed on Kratom. And they're not hard to find. And I mean, just reading a few, we can look at the unusual presentation of Kratom overdoses with rhabdomyolysis and transient hearing loss heart failure, a case of Kratom overdose in a pediatric patient, pressure necrosis requiring fasciotomy after Kratom overdose. It just goes on. Liver injury associated with Kratom, a popular opiate-like product. I mean, the list goes on and on. I have 12, 13, I've sent them to the board. But it just shows you there is information out there. There are case studies out there to be looked at, and recent ones. When 2021, 2022, I even think within 5 minutes I could find so many. So I would, I appreciate you guys being here, and I would hope that everybody would look into that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody online? Then with that, I'm going to close the public participation, public comment part of the meeting. I actually have something that I pulled from the FDA website. It was from the report of the commissioner of the FDA. It was their public report on their achievements in 2021, and they actually call out Kratom, and it says, in 2021, U.S. Marshals, at the FDA's request, seized more than 207,000 units of dietary supplement and bulk dietary ingredients that are or contain Kratom, including over 34,000 kilograms of bulk Kratom. The FDA estimates the seized products were worth approximately $1.3 million. The FDA continues to have significant concerns regarding the safety of Kratom, the risk it may pose to public health, and its potential for abuse. So I just raised that. I think that everybody who's been a part of this meeting seriously now agrees, that was poorly constructed, agrees with the seriousness of, I think mirtazapine is the main active ingredient, the chemical compound within the Kratom leaves that is generally held to be responsible. That mirtazapine Kratom is a significant compound of potential for abuse, for overdose, for death, for addiction. I think that everybody, and if I'm wrong on that, I would like anybody on the board just to raise their hand, raise their voice, and disagree with me. I think that everybody on the board agrees that Delta 8 is a bypass drug, that is, say, it bypasses the regulation of psychoactive cannabinoids, and as a consequence has risks, and that the unregulated but risky drugs have the additional problems of a total lack of control on their marketing. I think everybody on the board agrees that a store opened smack in the middle of downtown Wayne, which is smack in the middle of our beloved Radnor, and that the behavior of that store has been inconsistent with what we hold to be the standards of behavior for commercial endeavors within Radnor. I would also point out that it is probably beyond the scope of the Board of Health or the Board of Commissioners of Radnor to solve problems of substance abuse, addiction, and the acute and chronic health problems that exist there, that 150,000 Americans died last year of opioid overdoses, that it is a major problem, and that we may have kind of closed our eyes and believed that we at Radnor were immune to that, but that is not the case. So I think that that's the factual basis for all of that. I also have fairly strong beliefs about the problems involved in scheduling or evaluating for clearance or characterizing as a drug or regulating a drug. It requires, this is an area of my high expertise. I spent the last 20 years of my career in industry, and I've been at the FDA a lot of times. It is a huge endeavor, and it is not just the FDA, it is the DEA and the CDC and the state of Pennsylvania and the soon-to-be formulated Board of Health, Department of Health for Chester, and that taking on the labeling and regulating of drugs is something that I am going to recommend against the Township of Radnor taking on. That does not undermine in any way the fact that I believe that everything that's been said here is true. I believe that there is huge risk, and I believe that we in the Township need to take action. And I think that it's the encouraging thing is the amount of community involvement, because my strong belief is that the better educated our parents are, the better educated our students and our children are, the more that we can provide information to our township, the better equipped we will be, but that I don't think this is easy and I don't think it's going to go away. I'm going to ask for a volunteer or two from the board to help me put together a writing panel. I'm going to try and put a report together for the Board of Commissioners, who I think meets again, Maggie, Monday. So I'll try and have for them a report by Monday with our recommendations. I don't think that this is going to go away quickly. I also have one other caution for everybody that we have a little bit of a respite in that the store is still closed. Bob tells me that the website says that it said it was temporarily closed, but that today it showed up as permanently closed. I think that a lot of people here would be thrilled. I don't consider that a victory. I consider it a victory for those who have a real problem with the store, but wouldn't call this a mission accomplished. The presence of that store is simply a signal flag. These compounds are available in a lot of other places, and they're available online. And so the bigger issue, the issue of substance abuse addiction, the bigger issue commands our attention above and beyond the icon of this store, which we can thank for only one thing, I think, and that's raising the level of attention of a potential problem in Radnor Township. So, Bob, can I ask you to help me out with the writing? And I'm happy if anybody else on the board wants to volunteer, but I think in order to get something promptly out, a small committee that will then ask for review of the Board of Health before we send our report to the Board of Commissioners is the way I'd like to proceed.
David, just to clarify, their website has it as South Wayne coming soon.
I'm sorry,
Not
say that
permit
again?
closed. It has it as coming soon.
It has it as coming soon.
218 East Lang, coming soon, correct. And they do have quite the online ordering system on their website, just as an FYI.
And, yeah, thank you. Therein lies the rub.
Including
So-
free shipping over $35.
Yeah. So again, the store is an issue. The store itself is an issue. Kratom is an issue. Delta 8 is an issue. The Board of Commissioners will be the responsible authority for how the township will go about moving forward, and we will make our recommendations to the Board of Health in anticipation of their meeting next Monday. Thank you.